Honestly, engineering kind of ruined how I see everything. And I don't mean that as a joke. I don't even mean it as a complaint. I mean, once your brain starts working this way, there's no off switch. You don't really notice it at first. It just kind of sneaks up on you. At some point, you stop looking at the world the same way as everyone else does. Most people see something working and move on. Engineers immediately wonder why it works. And more importantly, what could happen when it doesn't? That shift sounds completely small, but it also really rewires how you think. Here's a really simple example. When a normal person sees a door, it's just a door to them. But when an engineer sees a door, they notice the hinge alignment, the tolerance in a latch, the way the handle feels when it turns. Very simple stuff, right? Not because we're trying to be annoying, but because our brain is just trained to notice failure points. Engineering doesn't really teach you to admire success. It teaches you to anticipate failure. And honestly, that changes everything. Because once you know and accept that things will fail, you stop being surprised when they do. You stop panicking, you start troubleshooting. And that kind of mindset leaks into places you don't expect. School, for instance, or projects, or relationships, even how you think about your own goals. Instead of asking, why didn't this work? You should be asking, what assumption did I make that turned out to be wrong? That question alone is really powerful because engineers don't assume they're unlucky. They assume their model was honestly just incomplete. And that's such an important difference. Most people take failure personally. Engineers take it informationally. Failure isn't really an insult, it's data. And once you see it that way, failure stops feeling like a wall. It just feels like a signal telling you where to look next. And here's the weird part though. This mindset, it can be exhausting. Because once you start thinking like this, you can't just enjoy things at face value anymore. You see inefficiencies everywhere. You see design flaws everywhere. You notice when something could have been simpler and more robust, more elegant. And sometimes you wish you could just turn that off. But then you realize something. That same mindset that makes you overanalyze is the exact mindset that lets you build things that actually last. Engineering teaches you patience in a way that nothing else really does. Because most problems don't fail loudly, they fail slowly. A tiny error compounds, a small oversight grows. A shortcut taken early shows up later when it's really way harder to fix. Engineering trains you to respect that. It teaches you that doing things good enough now often means doing them twice later. And honestly, that lesson really applies to life way more than people realize. Another thing engineering ruins is perfectionism. And at first, that seems really backward, but engineers learn pretty quickly that perfection is really impossible. There are always trade-offs: time versus quality, cost versus reliability, simplicity versus performance. So instead of chasing perfection, you chase balance. You learn to ask better questions. What's the real goal here? What actually matters? What can I safely ignore? That's such an underrated skill. And because most people get stuck trying to optimize everything, engineers learn to optimize the right things. And once you learn that, starting becomes a lot easier. You stop waiting for the perfect idea. You stop waiting to feel ready. You build a rough version. You test it. You learn from it. That's how real progress happens. And honestly, engineering teaches you confidence without ego, because you're constantly reminded that you don't know everything. You learn to respect reality, because reality, honestly, it always wins. And instead of fighting that, engineers work with it. That mindset carries over into how you handle stress as well. When something breaks, you don't just spiral, you slow down. You isolate the issue, you roll things out one by one. And that calm problem-solving approach is really incredibly valuable outside of engineering. It's the difference between reacting and responding. So yeah, engineering really did ruin how I see everything. But I can't look at a world without wondering how it works. I can't ignore problems that could be solved. I can't unlearn the habit of breaking things down into systems. But honestly, I wouldn't want to, because once you start seeing the world this way, everything really becomes a little more understandable, a little less chaotic, and a lot more interesting. And if you think like this too, you're probably not broken. You're probably just wired like an engineer.